Hey everyone, it's Coach Damon here. And before we get started with this podcast with Tillman, I want to let you know about an amazing opportunity. So right after this podcast, I asked Tillman if he had ever done any virtual lacrosse goalie coaching. And he said, no, he hadn't, but he was really interested. So here's what we've come up with: the Tillman Johnson 2-day live lacrosse goalie coaching mini camp. Oh man, I'm so pumped for this event. Tillman is going to teach us his fundamentals. Okay. Now we're going to do this as a fundraiser for the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. So many don't know this, but just 3 years after Tillman's legendary performance in 2003, when he won the national championship, 2006, his sister was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So he's seen firsthand the physical and the emotional pain that people fighting this disease have to go through. And raising money and helping people with MS is a cause near and dear to his heart. So proceeds of this live mini camp that we're putting on are going to go directly to the National MS Society. So proceeds are going to go to a great cause. And Tillman is going to open up the hood, lift the hood on his fundamentals. Never been done before. A lot of people don't know this, but in addition to being a legend of the goalie position, Tillman is also an elite coach. So he has coached numerous Division I goalies who have gone on to play at the highest levels, including Nick Morocco, who played at Georgetown and also just had an amazing season with the Cannons. Tillman's coached goalies that have gone on to play at Harvard, Dartmouth, Boston University, Princeton, just to name a few. So he's, in addition to being a great goalie, he's an elite coach, and he's going to, like I said, lift up the hood and teach us his fundamentals. So what exactly are we going to learn? Tillman actually sent me a list. I'm just going to read it. All right, listen to this. The Tillman Johnson Pyramid of Success. The fundamental technique for each save, one-on-ones, how to make those game-changing saves, clearing techniques, big eyes, Tillman's special technique for intense focus, pregame preparation, and how to get in the zone, Tillman's muscle memory drills, communication to lead the defense, and then technical things like pipe-to-pipe play, playing the ball behind, and rebound control. This is going to be amazing. So we're going to run this as a 2-day live event, February 15th and Thursday, February 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern, both days, live event, live goalie coaching with Tillman Johnson. He's going to cover those topics I just mentioned. If you cannot attend live, don't worry. You're going to get access to the recording, lifetime access to the recording, so you can watch it anywhere, anytime that you want. You're also going to get access to Tillman's slides and any videos that he uses to demonstrate these techniques or drills. And we're also going to do a Q&A at the end of each session, so you can ask Tillman those questions that have been on your mind. It's going to be an amazing event. Remember, proceeds go to the National MS Society. For the first time ever, Tillman Johnson doing a live training event. So valuable, such valuable stuff. It's unbelievable. Worth hundreds of dollars if you ask me. But obviously, if you know me, we want to get as many goalies in here as possible. So for just $49, we're going to get a ticket to this event. And remember, proceeds go to the National MS Society. To get your ticket, you're going to want to go to laxgoalierat.com/Tillman, TILLMAN, laxgoalierat.com/Tillman. If you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be a link right down below. Get your ticket, just $49, laxgoalierat.com/Tillman. I don't know about you, but I'm really pumped for this event. I hope to see you there February 15th, 7 p.m. Eastern. Take care. All right. Well, it is an honor to welcome to the show one of the goalie greats. It's Tillman Johnson. Tillman, welcome. How are you doing?
Thanks, Damon. Appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on. I know we've been trying to make this happen for a while, and I'm so glad we were able to do it. It's such a blast, such a blast to talk goalie with one of the greats. But I always start the podcast by asking, do you remember the very first time you jumped into goal?
I do. I started lacrosse when I was about 4 years old, and I started as a midfielder. And I remember in our town, they needed a goalie to hop in, and I decided to give it a shot, and I fell in love with it. I just felt like it was a position where you can make an impact right out of the gate. And for whatever reason, I wasn't afraid of the ball, which I think at that age, that younger age, is pretty unique. And I think the coaches saw that in me and really promoted the fact that I could be a good goalie. It's tough to get young goalies at a young age to hop in there. And I think if you can overemphasize how important the position is, which they did, that it makes it a little bit more exciting. And I was drawn ever since. And so I think I was about 6 years old when I got in the cage.
Wow. That's such an interesting attribute, not to be scared of the ball, because everybody's scared of the ball, right? Like you got this rubber thing coming at you and you're not wearing much padding. Was it from other sports? Like how do you think, why do you think you were not scared of the ball?
And I don't really know. It's one of those things where I think when the ball hit me, I got this adrenaline boost that it was more excitement than pain. It's just one of those things. It was just a different feeling. And I felt like that being in the cage, I don't know, maybe I didn't feel like running as much at an early age. I don't know what the exact reason was so long ago, but I do remember not being afraid. And I remember realizing that it was such an important position on the field and that I felt like I was in control of the game, and it just drew me in.
Yeah.
So
what did the coaches say to you, or like, what did they do to make you feel like goalie was such an important position? Because I agree, it is. And I think a lot of youth coaches underemphasize the importance, right? And do not, make the goalie feel special. And so a lot of people don't like the position because they're not getting those highs. But I'm curious what your coaches did or said that made you feel that way.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough. I had a coach, Nick Callis. I think he played at Penn. And he was with me through my entire youth career. I was good friends with his son, and he was a goalie and he knew the position, and he was this passionate coach who just really loved the game and loved coaching kids. And I'll never forget, he would overemphasize to everyone just the importance of the position and make you feel like you're a king as a goalie. And he knew the game, so I was learning from him. So it wasn't like a lot of youth program where they just throw the kid in the net and they don't teach. I was actually learning the game from someone who played, who was my coach all through the youth level. So huge advantage to me as a goalie, being able to learn proper position, being able to learn the stepping to the ball, making the fundamental save, and having this coach who just really made me feel important. It was what made me I am today. I mean, without him, I don't think I would have stuck with goalie probably. So I owe a lot of it to him.
That's awesome. So I was going to ask like how you learned the position. It sounds like it was, a lot from him. Now, is that like one-on-one, or would you stay with him after practice and he'd kind of break down the ins and outs?
Yeah. So, I mean, he would run his practice like a normal practice, but would always spend the first 10 to 15 minutes warming me up, and then would throughout the practice give me tips, things to work on. I grew up in Annapolis, Maryland, where lacrosse is king there. It's like football in Texas. Maryland, as everyone knows, is one of the hotbeds. And so as a kid growing up, lacrosse was my everything. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a college player at the University of Virginia. And having this coach that could help give me the tools to get there just made it, in my mind, attainable potentially at a later date. Also being in Annapolis, I had Charlie Toomey, who's the Loyola coach. I would go to his clinics. He would do clinics at the community college. And I would just try to grasp all the knowledge of players in the area by either watching the game, walking over to the Naval Academy where I grew up, and just watching these players play and try to incorporate it into my own game. But really at the end of the day, my youth coach throughout my career helped give me the basic fundamentals, and then they were just fine-tuned over time.
Yeah. So you knew from a very young age that you wanted to play at Virginia?
That was it, man. I tell you, that was the school I always wanted to go to. What
was the connection there?
One of my neighbors actually played. I had a neighbor who played at Virginia, Perry Frazier. Then I had another neighbor, Hiley Thompson, who played at Princeton. And so I'd always loved both the schools. And something about Virginia, I don't know what it was, I just was always drawn to it. So between both of them, Princeton and Virginia were always my top schools that I'd always considered.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So who were there any college goalies around that time when you were growing up, or maybe when you were in high school that you kind of looked up to, kind of enjoyed watching play?
Definitely. Scott Batch-Galupo for me was it. I love that guy. I'll never forget. I think it was 92. I went to the Final Four. My neighbor, Hiley Thompson, was on the team, and I went to go actually watch him, and I saw him play, and I'll never forget it. I mean, he had his sweatpants rolled up. I think he had a wooden shaft. I remember at the end of the game, he made this terrible clearing pass, and Syracuse came back and scored and put it into overtime. And then he made some unbelievable saves in overtime. And just his flair, his passion for the game, his quick hands and feet. I tried to emulate it, So as a kid, I'd be in the backyard pretending like I'm Scott Batch-Galupo. I wore my sweats the same way. I had a wooden shaft I threw on my stick, and I pretended I was him, and really looked up to him. I really looked up to him as a player. I tried to emulate my game after him.
That's awesome. I had him on the podcast, Tillman, and he told the story of him doing that flub at the end of the national championship game. And I cut the story to the actual game clips. I'll send it to you. It's a really amazing story. He does a good job telling it.
I love it.
So yeah, so he's got an interesting style of goalie play in that, like, he's like really upright in his stance. Yeah. And I don't know, is that kind of, how would you describe your style of goalie play?
Yeah, so I think as a kid, when I was watching him, I would try to emulate his flair, his quick hands, his acrobatic saves. But my style in terms of stance, positioning in the net, it evolved, it changed. Mm-hmm. So I look at my stance. I'm not an upright goalie. I just am not. I bend my knees till the heels come off the ground. I try to keep my chest, knee, and toe on a straight line, and really be in an athletic stance, almost like a football linebacker. So my position isn't upright. It's not exactly emulated to his game, but I took bits and pieces of his game and tried to incorporate it into my own.
Yeah, love it. One thing that's a huge part of your game, just in watching the tape, is just that energy. You make a save and you're like, you're letting people know about it, right? You're getting into it, you're getting pumped up. And I'm curious was that, was the fourth grade Tillman the same way, or is that something you kind of built up as you got more confidence?
Great question. And I can tell you, I've taken a lot of heat for this, and I hope people that listen don't take it as arrogance, because it wasn't. It was never portrayed that way by me. It was to get my team fired up. It was to make a difference. And it really was incorporated into my style my freshman year. I was a freshman playing at Virginia, starting. And Chris Colbeck, we were down at Florida at the ACC tournament. And after dinner, we walked onto the field and we were talking, and he said, I need you to have that excitement, that flair, that fist pump you do, because it gets the team fired up. It helps motivate the team. And I took it to heart. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, well, if I can make an impact by making a save and help the middies run a little bit harder, the defensemen play a little bit harder, those attackmen maybe go that extra mile, I'll do it. So it never was meant to come off as arrogance or as, shoving it in the other team's face because I made a save. It was to try to help motivate the guys around me and really get the team uplifted. So if I could do that by making a one-on-one save, I was going to do it. If I could do it by pumping my fist after the save to get my defenseman fired up, I was going to do it. Because if they're fired up, they make my life so much easier. I'm not successful if it's not for the guys in front of me. So that was the whole reason behind it.
Totally. Yeah, totally. 100% agree. I've had a lot of goalies on the podcast, and some of them talk about like this even keel approach where like they don't get too high and then they don't get too low. And to me, I've never like agreed with that, because like when you get high and you get pumped up, there's nothing wrong with that. I guess the drawback is they feel like if they showed that emotion, they would then get too low when they gave up goals. And so question for you is, did you ever go through that? Did you ever, experience some intense lows when you had like a slump?
No question. I mean, listen, we do this game and play this game because it's fun, right? At the end of the day, I love the game of lacrosse. And when I made a save, it was enjoyable for me. I was really having fun on that field. So I'm not going to sit back and hold it back, my excitement, my joy of making a good play and hopefully helping the team win. So I think being even keeled is important. I think you don't want to go into these super high and super lows, but I also think you need to enjoy what you're doing out there, and you need to show your emotion and have fun. And because it is a game and it's supposed to be enjoyed, and it's supposed to be fun for you playing and your teammates around you. The lows, definitely, we all have lows. We all have lows. We all have bad games. I'll never forget, I think it was 2002. We were playing Syracuse at home. It was, I think, the second or third game of the season. And it was a great game. We were playing great. The team was playing unbelievable. And I couldn't make a save. I couldn't see the ball, just felt off. I just never could get into the rhythm. And I think I ended the game with 4 saves. Mm-hmm. Worst performance I ever had in college. And we lost by 2 goals. I mean, I was at the lowest point of the low in my playing right there. I felt like I let my team down. I felt like I let the school down. And I remember, the only way to get out of a low is to bounce back, have a short memory, and figure out what you could have done better. And so I'll never forget that week. I, stayed before practice, got to practice early, stayed after, got extra shots, and really tried to emphasize what went wrong in that game and how to fix it for the next. In the next game, I think I had a pretty good game. It wasn't my best, but I was definitely in a slump early in the season. And I think that's probably true for a lot of goalies. The first couple of games are tough because you're trying to get into that rhythm. You're trying to get used to the speed of the game. It doesn't matter how many practices you have before. It's different in a game scenario. So those first couple of games in the season were always tougher for me to really get in that zone and have my outstanding games. They usually ended up coming later in the season. So.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, we'll get into that when we talk about the 2003 season. So when you're analyzing that tape and you're like, let me analyze what I did wrong, what are you seeing? Is it like I'm off on my positioning? Is it like I'm guessing? Is it I'm just not picking up the shots? Is it something else? What do you what ended up being the analysis? Curious.
Yes. So I think if you look at any goalie, I always focus on the stance. How am I standing in the cage? My positioning in the cage, and how I'm stepping to the ball. Those are my 3 key things that I really focus on out of the gate. My position's off. I don't care how good of a goalie you are. You're not going to make the save. You're not in the right position. You want to be balanced left to right in the net. So I would look at that, and then I'd look at, just like you said, am I guessing? Am I really truly tracking the ball into my stick, or am I dropping to my knees? Am I jumping up and trying to get a piece of it with my body? So break it down. And then I'd look at the shooter, right? What did the shooter do when he scored? Did his hands drop and I drop? Did I stay high? What did I do? And how could I have corrected that to read the save better coming out of the eyes of his stick? So I really just look at the overall game and see where could I have made that next save to maybe get the W, right? I don't need 20 saves, but if I had 6 saves or 7 saves, could that have been the difference in a win versus a loss? And where did I miss out on those? So
yeah, that makes sense. Makes total sense. Going back to your story, so you're playing high school lacrosse, I guess some club lacrosse, and how does you got this dream to go to Virginia? How does it all take place? How does it unfold?
Yeah, so my story was pretty unique in the fact that everyone thinks, oh, you started all 4 years of high school, you went to college and played all 4 years. It wasn't like that for me. I grew up in Annapolis. I went to St. Mary's High School in Annapolis, Maryland, which has a great tradition of lacrosse. Has put a lot of players into D1 programs. And when I got there, Chris Garrity, who played for Penn State and then played in the MLL for a while, was a year older than me and had earned the starting spot and was a great goalie, great friend of mine, great goalie, great friend. And we competed all through the youth level. Even though he was a year older, we still competed. And my sophomore year of high school, freshman year, I was on JV. Sophomore year of high school, I was on varsity, and Chris earned that starting spot. And I was sitting on the bench midway through the season. Coach gave me a shot, put me in, and I finished the season off and had an okay season. First year starting on varsity. And then junior year, I just wasn't playing my best lacrosse. I got to the spring season and I was having issues clearing the ball. I just didn't feel like I was playing my best lacrosse. And I lost out on that starting position. That's your junior year for when I was playing, the most important recruiting year. And I was sitting on the bench and it was really tough. All my friends were starting, teammates, guys that I, played with all through the youth are now starting on varsity at St. Mary's, and I'm sitting on the bench. So that was kind of the turning point for me, where I had to look at myself in the mirror and said, how do I eliminate that ever happening again? What can I do? What could I have done differently leading into that season? What could I do differently in practice to never sit on the bench? And so at that point, moving forward, I told myself, I'm never going to be a backup again, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to be that starter. So I think, although it was tough at that time, it provided me the foundation of my work ethic moving forward, not only in lacrosse but in life in general,
Mhm.
because I felt the lows sitting on the bench, watching your team be successful and feeling like you're not part of it. I know that feeling, and it's not easy. So, the goalies that are out there that are going through that, understand that just because you're not starting one season doesn't mean your career is a flop. You can turn it around.
Right.
And I think for me, that was kind of the aha moment where I looked at myself and said, I never want to go through this again. So what do I need to do to not make it happen?
Yeah, that's such a powerful experience. I had a sports psychologist on the podcast, and he talked about like a lot of elite athletes have that experience in their life, like Michael Jordan getting cut from his high school team, right? Like they have this, or whether you not earning that starting role, you have this experience where someone tells you like you're not good enough, and then it
Yep.
just like it lights this fire in your belly, and then like you just go into this whole new mode, and all of life's decisions become easy. It's like, do I want to go play video games or do I want to go take shots? Well, obviously, right, I want to go take shots, so yeah, embrace that moment. Love it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, cool. And then you earn the starting role, and then I guess your senior year, but at that point, like when did they do recruiting? Because wasn't it like a lot earlier, or did you actually commit your senior year to Virginia?
Yeah. So that summer in between my junior and senior year, I went to Top 205, which I think at that point was the top recruiting camp.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't club teams when I was in high school; it just wasn't around.
Yep.
It was, you played your high school team, and then you played maybe a couple tournaments in the summer, recruiting camps, and that was it. So I went to Top 205 and I played well. And at that point, I got noticed by Dom. And that fall, I started getting letters from Virginia and a bunch of other schools. I got letters from most of the top schools, but Dom really at Virginia just was hammering me with the letters, and it was perfect because I knew I didn't even need to go on my recruiting visit. I knew that was where I wanted to go.
Right.
It was as soon as I could sign it, verbal commit, whatever we needed to do, I was going. And so I let the process play out. And I think at the point where you could make a verbal commitment, I don't remember the exact time. I think it was that summer, end of the summer. I made a verbal commitment to Dom and go to UVA, and it was my dream. It was my dream that finally came true, and I knew now I had to put the work in to promise myself that I would never sit on the bench again. So
Yeah.
I was going to a top D1 program with an unbelievable goalie who had just won a national championship, and it was going to be a battle to not sit on the bench. And so I just put my mind and my body and got it ready, and went there and did everything I could to earn that spot. So.
Yeah. What does that look like for you training wise? Is that, getting ready? Is it a lot of shots? Are there like particular drills that you'd love to do? Or what does it look like when you say like, I worked really hard to get ready?
Yeah, so out of the gate, it's how do I make myself the best athlete I can be, and that's in the
Mhm.
weight room,
Mhm.
footwork, agility work. How do I get stronger? How do I get faster? How do I have increased endurance? So all of that plays a factor. But then it's how do I become a better goalie? Whether it's breaking down your own game tape or watching other college goalies and what they're doing and how they're doing it, and then taking it into the field and practicing with my friends. I had a great group of friends growing up that a lot of them played Division I lacrosse, and we'd go out and they'd go to the Naval Academy and they'd fire balls on me for hours and hours. And a lot of the success I had in college is due to them, because the hours we put in, both for them getting their reps in as shooters, but also me practicing in the cage, allowed me to work on those things that I saw I needed to work on with top quality shooters. So.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. So you get to Virginia then your freshman year. Do you get any like instruction there, or does your goalie game change when you get there?
Yeah, so my freshman year, we didn't really have a goalie coach my freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
I think my freshman year was Tucker Radaball, who obviously is an unbelievable player at Virginia, a midfielder. He was our assistant coach. He was the guy who warmed me up. So, although I didn't have direct goalie coaching, I had one of the world's best shooters shooting on me. And that progressed to Dave Curry, who played at Virginia and then in the MLL. And then I think it was my sophomore year, Hannon Wright was a goalie at Virginia, a backup there, one of the best people on the planet, great guy. And he really helped me kind of fine tune the position. Although he didn't ever start at Virginia, he knew the game. He had studied the game. He was smart guy. And really him and I would sit down and break down games and what we could be doing better, different training. But honestly, a lot of it goes toward the guys that were shooting on me. The players at Virginia, but also, Dave Curry, Tucker Radaball, these guys are warming me up every day. We used to have battles, before games, before practice to see, how many saves I could have. And it was that took my game to the next level because I was seeing the top shooters shoot on me daily. So.
Yeah. Which is a great tip for the youth. I mean, a lot of times goalies ask me like, should I like play up? And I always recommend, yeah, like as long as, it's safe, right? As long as you're not, a super youth trying to play whatever against high school kids, but yeah, playing one level up allows you to see better shooters, better quality lacrosse. And then when you go back to the normal, to your normal league, right? Those shots aren't going to seem as quick. So I think that's a really good tip. Yeah. So who was the goalie? The goalie that was there, who was a national champ the year before you, who was that? And he had graduated or you beat him out?
Derek Kenny was his name. And he won the national championship in 99. I think they lost in the Final Four in 2000. And he was an unbelievable athlete. He wanted to play midfield at the end of the day. He loved goalie, but he wanted to get out and play midfield. So I don't know many goalies that could go out and play midfield. I mean, I know I couldn't, but he could, and he was good. And so I think he looked at the game and said, okay, I like goalie, but I really want to play midfield. So this is a perfect time to transition. So at the start of the fall, my first year, I was playing well. And I think the coaches felt like, okay, they can make this transition at that point because Derek really wants to be out on the field. So it was a combination of, I think, him wanting to get out and play midfield and the fact that I was playing well when I first got there, that the coaches felt confident enough that they could move on to a freshman to start.
Yeah. Which is a lot of faith to put in a freshman, right? It's pretty rare to have a 4-year starter. I mean, it happens, but it's pretty rare. I'm curious, like goalie is a position of leadership. Right. And like, I'm always curious, like, how do you, as such a young kid, come in here and be a leader of this group of men when you're just a freshman?
No question. And I always look back and I had Connor Gill there who, when I was in high school, I was watching on TV saying, oh my God, this kid's unbelievable. And now I'm playing with him, Mark Kuntz as a defenseman, these guys that, I was watching on TV when I was in high school and now I'm playing with them and supposed to be directing them from the defensive side. So I think at the end of the day, listen, I'm not a Ray Ra type of guy in terms of getting the team fired up. I try to lead by example and I try to lead by hard work I put in the weight room, on the field, dedication to the program and to the team. Staying after for more shots to get better and doing whatever I can to help the team. And I think the guys saw that. It wasn't easy as a freshman. It really wasn't. And I learned a lot, but I think at the end of the day, my work ethic would never have been questioned by any of the players. And I think they knew that I had the talent to play at that highest level. And I think they kind of took me under their wing more than me leading them out of the gate.
Got it. Yeah. Love it. In your, progression as a goalie, would you say like, from your freshman year all the way to your senior year, you got better or, was it something different?
Yep. So, I mean, I think it's interesting. Everyone says, oh, your 2003 season. Yeah, that's the year we won the championship. Mm-hmm. But just because we win a championship doesn't mean that that's the only season you had a good year, right? And I think at the end of the day, I did get better as the years went on. I learned more, and I think experience was what played that role. being in these game scenarios and understanding how to handle certain situations allows you to become a better player and allows you to develop. Yes, I would say probably my best year was 2003. And I think the 2004, when we lost a lot of seniors, was a rebuilding year.
Mm-hmm.
Although I felt like I was playing well that season, we didn't have the outcome we wanted to as a team. So can I look at myself in the mirror and say, oh, that was one of my better years? No, I can't, because I was a captain. We didn't have, a top team that year. And therefore, no matter how many saves I had, didn't matter. It wasn't a great season for me. So yes, I do think 2003 was probably my best year. I tried to get better every year. And I think I evolved as the years went on from experience being on the field.
Yeah, love it. I'd love to talk about that 2003 season. There's only there's a few NCAA 2A tournaments where the goalie has taken over, right? Has taken over the tournament. And whenever you say that, like 2003, Tillman Johnson comes to mind, right? There's been a handful of other ones. But what a tournament. Like, talk to me a little bit about that season. And when the tournament started, like, were you feeling like you were playing the best lacrosse you've ever played? Or was it one of those things where, like, you just got hot real quickly?
Yeah, so it was a surreal feeling. It was the first time Final Four was in an NFL stadium. It's in Baltimore, my hometown. Annapolis is 30 minutes south. And I just embraced the opportunity. When I got there, I remember we got there before the Final Four. We walked around the stadium and I soaked it all in. I said, listen, I get one shot in my life to do this. Make the most of it. And as the first game on Final Four Saturday unfolded, I just felt like I was in this weird zone where everything slowed down. The ball felt like it was moving slower. The players felt like they were running slower. Excuse me. It just felt like it was a different atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And I carried that through till Monday. I just felt like I was so focused and so in the zone that no one could score on me. Mm-hmm. Even though players did, and it was great games, it just was a surreal moment.
How do you if I'm going to teach some kid to recreate that magic, what do you think it's about? Is it about being, from hearing what you just said, about part of it's being relaxed, right? Like being in the moment, just kind of like soaking it all in. But I'm curious, like, if you're going to teach, a young goalie how to replicate that magic, what would you say?
Yeah. So for me, looking back, it was taking a deep breath and taking it all in before the game started. So trying to visualize myself in the scenario, making these saves, being successful, and just relaxing and having fun. Mm-hmm. Right. At the end of the day, we play our best lacrosse when we're having fun. And I didn't want to miss out on the opportunity to enjoy the experience because I was so worried about making the save, mm-hmm. or so worried about the score. So I think the focus for me was really take it all in, understand this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and let's try to make the most of it, and get focused, get in the zone. So how do I get in the zone? I try to remind myself, make the next save, take the deep breath, stay focused throughout the game. And I'll actually talk to myself. I'll tell myself, Tillman, stay focused. Watch the ball, watch the ball, watch the ball. And I think those scenarios allow you to put the blinders on and be completely focused on just the ball, focused on the play developing and not worrying about everything around you. Mm-hmm. I mean, that for me, that was key, because that's a tough place to play. I mean, you're in an NFL stadium with tons of fans, more than I've ever played against or played in front of. And it's loud, it's intimidating. And so I think at the end of the day, if you can put the blinders on and focus on your job, which is stopping the ball, you can get in that zone. So, yeah,
a lot of kids would take like the opposite approach to that. And they'd be like, oh, there's all these fans and it's such a big moment, such a big game. And they would kind of like build it up and then get so nervous that they don't play well. And it sounds like you took the opposite, right? And like, yeah, it's a big game, but like enjoy it, right? Enjoy it and let's have fun with it. And that's what lacrosse is all about. And that's ironically when goalies play the best, when you're having fun and enjoying it.
No question.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I got some tape. Could I share my screen here? We could talk through.
Of course.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thought that'd be kind of fun. You and I were talking before we hit record here. Nothing makes you feel old like looking at
the blurry film from 2003.
It's so blurry.
Yeah, they look like stick figures out there. This is great.
I know.
My kid watched this and he said, "Dad, was the TVs black and white when you played?" It's, that really makes you feel old. So
yeah. So just like heading into this game, like what had it been raining all weekend? Like talk to me about like the conditions. Cause I mean, some people call this the mud bowl, right? And it is, you can kind of see the conditions are pretty bad and are pretty muddy. And so talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I think looking back, if I can remember correctly, I think they were going to replace this field at Raven Stadium and put the synthetic grass in. So I don't think there was a whole lot of maintenance going into this. And it was pouring down rain the whole week before. I think it was torrential downpour. The field was a mess. And we were game 2, if I remember correctly, on Saturday. So the field was really destroyed. I mean, it was like, they think they were throwing kitty litter or something in the center there, and the crease was a mess. But at the end of the day, that kind of played into my game. I always felt like rainy games, for whatever reason, maybe the ball didn't kick up as high, but I was able to have just better games. So it kind of played into my style. So I wasn't too worried about it. At the end of the day, I was just trying to enjoy the experience.
Yeah, love it. I played a game like this, and the conditions of the field were such that like I could pretty much eliminate bounce shots. Like I knew if there was a bounce shot, like it was just going to stick in the mud. It was that bad. Did you have that feeling, or were you still kind of anticipating all types of shots?
Yeah, no, I didn't change my style in terms of because it was wet, because I remember in warmups, the ball was kicking up. And if you look at some of this footage, I think you can see that the ball does skip up. It was just different. It didn't get that high bounce. It stayed kind of knee to waist high. So, but it skipped across the ground. So there's a couple of these shots that kind of skim across the mud. You also get that change in direction, right? It hits a clump and maybe bounces to the left or the right. So you really got to smother that ball, almost like a flopping scenario. As much as I don't like to teach or coach that, you kind of have to flop on this ball on these bounce shots in order to really make this save. So
yeah. Well, so they open the game. Hopkins wins the face-off, and this guy takes a shot. That's pretty far out there, and it's a bounce shot. And it's almost, even from what looks at this angle, again, we got the blurry camera. It almost looks like it's offline, but that's got to feel pretty good for you. National championship game, like you get your first save. Cause I don't know how you were as a goalie, but for me, like until I got that first save or that the ball hit me, the first touch, like I was a little bit on edge. And now that you've made that save, were you the same way, or what do you think about the save here? Yeah,
looking at this, I always like to get the first save. I like games where I'm seeing a lot of shots. If I'm not seeing shots, I always tend to get cold and not play as well. So, the first save being a fairly decent shot, even though it was from far out, I think it kicked up a little bit, and making that bounce shot save just got me in the zone, got me in the rhythm.
Yeah.
I knew at this point I played on Saturday, and I had a good game in the semifinals. And I felt like if I could start off strong in this Hopkins game at the beginning of the game, I could maybe carry over some of that momentum. So that first save, I think, was a critical one for me. And it also shakes the nerves a little bit. Anyone who says they're not nervous in a national championship game is lying.
Right.
I was nervous. I didn't want to let my team down. I wanted to win this. This was my lifelong goal. So to say I wasn't nervous, this kind of shakes the nerves a little bit and allows you to get focused and start having fun and playing the game. So,
yep. Love it. Let's take a look at this save right here, because this is a great one.
Led by really Kevin Boland, who is tremendous with his vision of the field. Kyle Berry driving the right. He's going to spin and shoot. Picked up easily by Tillman Johnson. He looks for the outlet pass. Cannot. To me, that's how you're seeing it pretty well. I mean, that's a pretty good, for those who are just listening to the audio, the guy drives around from X,
and, sort of shoots. It's good defense. Like, he gives a last minute shove. So he's falling away from the goal, but he shoots it low to high. And it's going for the corner, and you are right on it with a great explosive step. I mean, that is goaltending 101, right? Like, explode to the ball, cut off the angle, drive that top hand. Anything else about this save you want to mention?
Yeah, I appreciate it, Damon. It was just, it's what we do every day. It's a offside high save, and I just tried to see the ball into the stick and make it. Definitely great defensive play there. You can see he pushed him out, and I was just seeing the ball at that point. An easy offside high save, and then I don't know if someone hit my stick or I just threw a terrible outlet. Probably the latter. Threw a terrible outlet, and I could, missed obviously by our defenseman, and obviously possession now back to Hopkins. So for every good deed you do or good save, there's always the negative you can pull out in this, which is a terrible outlet. So
yeah, the camera kind of cuts to you at a close up, so I didn't know if he dropped it or if it was a bad outlet pass. But I was going to say,
I'll take the blame on that one. I think
I don't know. Based on this look right here, I'm saying he dropped it, but I don't know. We'll see.
That's funny. I love it.
The other thing, you got the 10 diamond mesh going there in your stick. And I don't know if you've seen recently, but like the 10 diamond mesh is making a resurgence. There's a company called Mesh Dynasty just came out with a 10 diamond mesh. But you were one of the first ones to that I ever saw anyways, to use it. And I'm, what was your experience with it, or why'd you go with that product?
Yeah. So I don't really, honestly, I'll be lying if I said I knew why I switched to it. Mm-hmm. I know the regular mesh, the original mesh that I had in my stick, the smaller little diamonds, I just felt like I could never control the ball as well. I could never keep it in like the sweet spot of the stick. So I felt like this provided me the ability to make the save, control the rebound a little bit better, but then be able to get a decent outlet out. So I just felt like more for control purposes and less rebounds, this mesh just worked better for me. So
got it. Yeah. And what about these helmets? Were these new for that year? I think it's like a C Pro if I'm not mistaken. But I played also in 2003, and we had the normal like Cascade C2s, I think, or they were. Yep. But were these new for that year? Because it just, the Tillman Johnson look, like this is just, it's just awesome.
I appreciate it. Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not even sure. I don't know the model of the helmet. We show up there in our lockers, we throw it on our head and we go play. That's kind of how it unfolds. So it's funny. I was never a huge equipment guy. Yeah. If you look at that shaft, and I know when we won the championship, this was in one of the articles, but that shaft I'm playing with there was my original shaft from youth lacrosse.
Wow.
I still have it. It's, it was an original STX titanium plus. I think one of them actually fractured at a camp and injured a kid, and they discontinued it. But that was my original titanium shaft that I used all through high school, middle school, college, pro, still have it today. So
that's awesome. How about the eye black? Did you always wear eye black for games?
I did, and it's funny because looking back, I was very much a ritual routine type of player where I did the same thing every time before I started and laced up the cleats. It was, tape my wrists a certain way, put my pads on, same way every time, cleats on the same way, eye black on. And then I'd handle a lacrosse ball just in my hands. I'd just hold on to a lacrosse ball and I'd kind of juggle it back and forth. And I'd work on just keeping my eye on the ball. So whether it's talking to my teammates, whether it's walking around, grabbing a drink of water before the game, stretching out, I'd keep that ball in my hands and I just have my eyes focused on it the whole time, just to really train my eyes to pick up the white lacrosse ball. And that was my routine. That was my ritual. And when the eye black goes on and the pads go on the certain way, it's time to play. It's time to forget about everything else in your life going on and focus on making saves and helping your team win. So for me, the eye black was just kind of a finishing touch to knowing that it's game time.
Love it. 243.
That's what Petramalo wants. That's what he's got. Benson and another save by Tillman Johnson.
I love the announcers, man. They get so pumped. But this is a great save. You might be man. Yeah, you're sort of like the penalty had just expired, so you guys are man down. He catches it right on the crease. I mean, wide open. It looks like you sort of you take a little, or talk me through the save if you could.
Yeah. So if it looks like obviously there's someone wide open in the crease. It looks like we're man down here, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
he just releases it quickly. I think it probably bounces off my chest, honestly. I don't know how great of a shot it was, if it was just that I was in good position and it hits me. And try to control that rebound so it doesn't bounce out of the crease. And then if I make a bad outlet here, I don't know if you keep it going. Nope, good outlet.
That
Get
one's
it up
money.
and out.
That one's
Yeah,
money.
I think that one. I think that one hit me in the chest though, and I'd like to take credit for a great save there, but I think it was just good position and probably a shot that player wishes they got back.
Yeah, well, this is a lacrosse goalie podcast, so you're always going to get credit for anytime a ball hits you, because a lot of it is the positioning, right? Like if you're not square and out a little bit on him and square to the shot, like you don't make that save. So let's not take away. Yeah. Let's check out this one.
Two-goal game. Kyle Berry. Ford on the near side, Doniger far side, 1 out of 3 on the extra man. Up top to Berry, and look at the save by Tillman Johnson. He puts it right back into Berry's stick. He might eat this one, and he takes another save.
I love it. I love that sequence so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the things in this clip, you can really hear your communication. Like, I don't know if they've got the goals mic'd up, but like, you're almost as loud as the announcer, right behind. Was that a big part of your goalie game, that communication?
It was. I mean, and listen, this is a loud stadium. It wasn't easy to hear. And Hopkins was the home team here, being in Baltimore. And it was tough. So you really had to be loud. So, obviously you can hear it from here. I don't remember if the goals were mic'd or not, but you can hear me calling where the ball is, talking about the slides or who's hot. And as this play unfolds, you can see the score, I think, is 8-5 there. It's so blurry, you can't really even tell, but I think it's 8-5. So it's fourth quarter. It's a turning point, right? They could score here. Now it's 8-6. And I think this is a critical save to kind of preserve this win, even though there's 13 minutes left. And listen, this unfolded not how I wanted, right? I made the first save. I should have had a better outlet. I mean, that's kind of a long range shot there, stick side high. I should have had that save, but then I throw it right back to the guy. I mean, what did you do? I'm looking at myself thinking, you just cost yourself a goal here. And so at this point, it's fight or flight, it's survival. And so I just see him get the ball here, and whatever I need to do, if I need to sell out my entire body, I'll do it. And you can see I just watch the eyes of the stick. I try to hold on that first fake, and I see his hands drop, and I just try to lay into a split, make that save. And then I rebound, and I see a guy right there. I think it was Bobby Benson right there. And he just throws it right to the top of the net, tried to go over me, and I just explode up. And fortunately, I think get a piece of it with my stick. And that was it. Rebound goes behind, and I think they get the ball after, if I remember correctly, or maybe our defenseman runs it out. But this play, when you look back, everyone says, "Oh, that 3 save sequence, like that's great." I didn't want it to unfold this way. This all occurred because I made an awful pass out of the crease, and so it's, as much as I love this save sequence, and I'm, it was for me probably one of the highlights of my career, making these 3 saves.
Mm-hmm.
If you really break it down like you and I are now, it never should have occurred if I had made a better pass, but it happened, and I recovered. I never gave up on the play. I never gave up on the ball. I recovered, and I tried to stop that 1-on-1 on the crease, and then got the lucky save on the last one.
I love it. See, now beyond, I thought you were going to say you did the goalie's dream of he takes a bad shot and you throw it right back to him and be like, shoot it again, son. Shoot it again, right? Son.
I love it.
And then, how did you not go for this fake right here? I mean, to me, like, you're so pumped up. He's right on the crease. He throws a high fake and nothing, and you're right on it.
I teach a lot of the goalies I work with to hold on the first fake. I mean, if you break down a shooter, most shooters try to get you to move, right? So they're going to throw that fake, whether it's a stick fake, a head fake, some sort of movement to get you to either drop your stick, drop your body, move to the left, move to the right. And so I always try to focus on holding on that first fake and then matching up center line of my body on the eyes of their stick. And you can see I kind of drop down center line of my body on the eyes of his stick. Mm-hmm. But this comes from, playing in the backyard with buddies. This comes from, there's a law in practice, and your attackman grabs a ball and he throws a couple fakes and you try to match up stick for stick and practice that one-on-one save. So I think doing that in practice and trying to create these scenarios in the backyard, working out with your friends, allow you to make these saves in a big time game like this.
Yeah. The other thing too, is there's some debate in the goalie community about whether you go down to your knees or stay on your feet. And this is sort of a textbook reason as to why you stay on your feet, right? Because you're able to get right back in position and make this third save. And if if you're on your knees, like you might not get there. So I always coach stay on the feet. Do you coach that as well?
I do. I try to eliminate flopping, even though, I had a tendency to do that at times.
Do as I say, do as I say, not as I do. Right?
Exactly. In this scenario, I really did want to stay on my feet, and I try to teach that as best you can, because it allows you to recover if you give up a rebound or if you need to make that next save, just to get set again.
Yep. The Hopkins guy's in the crease, by the way. I think they got.
I know. I never noticed that. I just saw that now.
I think they got so pumped up in the in the heat of the moment
funny.
that they like.
I just noticed that now too. That's hysterical.
Totally missed it, but you make the save and he gets out of there. So I think you guys do win this ground ball. No, they get it back. So there's another. Hold on, I think I missed one of the best saves.
Capable of stinging the hot Tillman. Really can kill you. Led by really Kevin Bowling, who is tremendous with his vision of the field. Kyle Berry driving the right.
No, we saw that one. So do you end up shutting them out in the first quarter, because the end of the first quarter and the whole second quarter is missing in this game, in this tape?
Yeah, and I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember. I really don't. I don't know. I don't remember if we shut them out. I don't think we did. Yeah. But I think it was kind of a back and forth, a couple goals here, a couple goals there. But I don't think we shut them out the first half. Yeah. Yeah. I think that next save is coming up. You sent me this. I think it's coming up in a second.
Yeah. The other question while I'm trying to find this is, Hopkins goalie Rob Scherer also had a great game.
Great game.
Yeah. Are you, does that kind of inspire you, or are you not even paying attention to what the other goalie's doing on the other end?
You try not to, but I knew going into this game, this was going to be difficult. I played against Rob in high school. He's a great goalie, great guy. And I knew this was going to be a battle. And, when he makes a save, like right there, I try to block that out. I don't want it to psych me up. I don't want it to take me off of what I need to do, which is to focus on my game and focus on making the save. So at the end of the day, he did have a great game, and this could have gone the other way easily. And so, nothing to be taken away from him. I mean, he played very well. Sometimes things just evolve differently. And I was fortunate enough to get the W. Our team played just, a little bit better, made a couple extra plays, and that's it. That's the difference. But he had a great game. And at the end of the day, I try to not look at what they're doing down at the other end of the field.
Yep. Perfect.
Inside Hopkins, Tillman Johnson against Kyle Berry.
There's another angle of it. So this, to me, is like the pinnacle of goalie athleticism, where
Tillman Johnson, these two goalies going toe to toe, but Johnson wins this round clearly. It doesn't get any better than that, folks.
That's right, Quint. That's right. Ex-goalie right there, So if you're listening just to the audio, it's that classic save where, you in this case, you do bite on that first fake, because you kind of have to. Like, he's coming, he's got the ball and he's top center right on the crease, throws a high fake, you go for it, and then you stretch out across over your body and make that save. And wow, unbelievable. What was going through your head with that save?
Yeah, I mean, I just tried to really focus on the eyes of the stick there, and just keep my composure. I did bite on that first fake. because I did assume with the defenseman trailing him that he was just going to run across the crease and let one rip.
Mm-hmm.
So I did bite on that first. And then when he didn't shoot, I just kept on it. I just kept fighting to get to that position and get my stick on his stick without coming out and playing him. So you can see there, I'm kind of kicking my leg out to maybe get a piece of it with my leg or my calf. And then my stick comes over and fortunately I'm matching up stick for stick and he shoots it right into my head. So,
yeah. Now, is that a save you had made before where you kind of jump and then, acrobatically contort your body in the air?
Well, it's funny that the Saturday against Maryland, I don't know, there was a save I have where there's a guy on the crease. I think he throws 3 or 4 fakes. I go up, I go down, I go up, and then I explode up and get it on the 3rd or 4th fake. And it was a similar kind of scenario where it was just in the zone. It was following the stick, right position, whatever it was just able to explode and make that final stretch to get that save. So Saturday, there was a similar save like this on the crease from a Maryland player. And so, I felt like I told you in the beginning, the game slowed down. So when everything slows down, you have the ability to get those hands out and make that kick save and get your body on that ball. So,
yeah, love it. Love it. Let's see here. So I think we went through all the saves, but for maybe there's one more.
Big defense overall as you see Kyle Harrison pushing, hook at the shot, and this time it's Tillman Johnson who's fresh.
Love it. Kyle Harrison, the legend, doing his iconic shot, right?
Yep, his move right there.
His jump shot, pretty close range, hands free. And boom, I think it catches you in the head, but you got to be feeling.
I think it does. Yeah.
Pretty good at that point, right? 8-5. I mean, these are huge saves, right? Like if they score here, like they're right back in the game.
Yeah. And you talk about momentum in a game, right? And they score here, the momentum shifts. The fans go crazy. Hopkins just scored. It's 8-6. So, you're doing whatever you can just to stop a run. And that's the game of lacrosse is runs. And if I can make a save off my head to stop that run, I'll do it. Looking back at Kyle, he's, one of the best to ever play the game. You look at this move, you said it, this is his iconic move, that jump shot, kind of a high to high shot. And, this saves credit to the coaches for Virginia, Dom Starja, Mark Van Arsdale, Hannon, Dave Curry, these guys scouted him and they knew this. And this was in our scouting report. And so, I knew that if Kyle Harrison comes down the side, that I probably should stay high, stay big, and try to cover the top part of the net. Don't bite low on that. So I really tried to hold my ground with him as he's coming down that alley. And when that shot's released, just explode up, and was fortunate enough to get a piece of it with my head, I think.
Yep. And then, as we talked about earlier, it's a fist pump. It's, are you saying anything at this point, or is the way to pump your team more, with your gestures?
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I'm just so amped up. It's the national championship. It's 8-5. It's, 6 minutes left, and everything I've worked for my whole life since I was 4 years old comes down to this: 6 minutes and 30 seconds, everything I've worked for. And it's tough to keep those emotions inside. It really is. And so I think this was a combination of getting the team fired up, but I was just ecstatic at this point. I knew I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. I could see that this national championship was within reach, and I was seeing the ball well, and I felt confident, and I felt like we could get there as a team. And if I could, get my middies a little bit more fired up to run the clock out, at this point you're thinking, God, please just get the ball over the midfield line and have the guys run around in circles until the clock runs out. You just want to try to preserve this win. So just trying to get the guys fired up, but also, at this point it's tough to hold the emotions back. You just have to let it loose, because this has been a lifelong dream to win this.
Love it. Yeah, I should mention this is the pre-shot clock era, so you could easily have a good 4 or 5 minute possession.
Definitely.
So, well, awesome. That all accumulates, with you guys winning the national championship, 9-7 final score. So for somebody like myself who's never won a national championship, how do you describe the feeling when the clock hits double zeros?
Yeah. I mean, it was, it almost brings you to tears still today. You're with 40 of your closest friends, right? The blood, sweat, and tears you put in together. I mean, you can see it on Hunter's face there. The blood, sweat, and tears you put together, the countless hours of sprints and weight room work and everything we've sacrificed in college to get to this point. It's all come to fruition. It's all happened. And there's a lot of great teams that never get this chance to hold that trophy up, that never get the chance to celebrate with their teammates like this. And so it's the emotion is just, it's tough to describe. It's everything you've worked for as a kid. I don't know other sports. It's winning the Super Bowl for football. For lacrosse, it's winning the national championship in college lacrosse. That's the pinnacle in my eyes of the game. And if you can do that, you've hit the pinnacle. And I think all the emotion involved, everything we've sacrificed, it's tough to wrap your head around. It really is. So, and you look back now, God, how many years is it? I'm 20 plus years now. And the day still is ingrained in my mind as clear as yesterday.
Yeah.
The winning it and the celebration with the teammates and just kind of everything we've worked so hard for coming full circle.
Love it. Well, congratulations, Tillman. That is awesome. Not only that, it inspired this whole generation of goalies. I can't tell you the number of goalies I've had on this show. When I asked that question, who are your inspirations? You said Batch, right? Bacigalupo. They say Tillman Johnson, and they reference that game. So there's this whole generation of goalies who saw that and they're like, wow, that's what this position's all about. Like, I'm in. So thank you for doing that. It's really awesome.
That means a lot. It really does. Listen, I play this game because I loved it. It's a great game. And when you're in that scenario, you never think that kids are going to look up to you to that degree. So hearing that, it means a lot because, it was me out there giving everything I had and really having fun with it. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love it. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Tillman. This was tons of fun.
Thanks, Damon.
I remember you were doing some coaching. I think we chatted before we hit record. You're kind of focusing on the family now. Are any plans to get back into coaching, or are we going to stick with the family?
I'm coaching my 8-year-old. I have a son who's a goalie now. So it's been a lot of fun coaching him. I tried to keep him out of the net and not go through the same bruises and pains I went through, but he loves it. He really wants to play goalie. So I have an 8-year-old I'm coaching. I'm doing the Massachusetts Club program up in Boston area with him. And then he's playing town in Duxbury. So that's kind of my focus right now. Nice. As they get older and get out of the house, I might get back into coaching other kids. But right now it's really focusing on them.
Awesome. What's his name? We'll be on the lookout for him.
It's Tillman as well. Yeah.
Tillman Jr.
Johnson.
All right, man. We got
Jr.
another Tillman in the goal.
I love it.
How are you coaching him? Is it just the exact same things that you've learned, or are you taking some sort of, I guess some new techniques? Because the game's changed quite a bit since you and I played in college, right? Yep. And I'm curious if you see goalies, how they play today versus how you played, back in that tape that we just watched. And have you stolen anything from these modern goalies?
Yeah, a little bit. I would say, listen, if it's not broke, don't change it. Right. And at the end of the day, my style might not be perfect, but it worked for me. It worked for, Nick Morocco, who plays in the PLL and played at Georgetown, was one of the first goalies I worked with in Duxbury. And I had a bunch of kids go on to play Division I lacrosse. So the model I teach works. Yes, you try to include some newer things, but really at the end of the day, at this age, coaching my son, it's basic fundamentals. Mm-hmm. And I'm dad first. And I always say I don't put pressure on him. If he wants to go out and throw the ball or practice, we'll do it. But it's up to him if he wants to do it. I'm not putting the pressure on him to get out there. So I want him to enjoy it. I want him to have fun. When he goes to the town practice or his club program, I do try to teach the fundamentals that were taught to me. I pass down what I was taught and tweak it a little bit to each individual player's game and try to give them all the tools that were given to me and let them kind of run with it on their own.
Love it. Real quick comment. Nick Morocco is awesome, by the way. I had him on the show. He's
Great guy.
Amazing goalie, but yeah, just a great guy. He's awesome.
Yep.
And so do you have Tillman Jr. padded up?
I don't, I keep him the same way you and I play. He's got a helmet, cup, glove, chest pad. At the end of the day, if you don't feel comfortable at that age getting in the cage and taking balls off the leg, then it's probably not for you. So I always say, the younger goalies, I get it. Mom and dad want to throw some shin pads on them or some football pants or whatever they do. But at the end of the day, you're in the goal to be a goalie, and you got to understand that there's consequences hopping in the net, and that's getting hit with the ball. And I think you start adding pads, it slows down your mobility, it slows down your quickness. And my game was really about foot and hand speed. And if you start putting shin pads and pants on, then it just slows everything down. So no, he's in the basic stuff. And we had practice the other night, and I plucked one off his arm, and I felt terrible. It's dad hitting his kid, and he started to have a tear in his eye, and muscles right through it. So it's he's a tough kid. He really enjoys it, and I just try to give him all the tools I had to go out there and have fun, maybe get an experience like that in his life at one point.
Got it. Well, that's one point we do disagree on, but that's quite all right. I'm big into padding, but hey,
you are okay.
I have a question for you about kind of like being a dad, and being a goalie dad, because there's a lot of lacrosse goalie moms and dads. I mean, the sport has grown tremendously, right? And so what you get is now, your son or your daughter comes home and they say, hey, I want to be the goalie. I want to be the goalie of the team. And they've never even played lacrosse, like let alone been a goalie themselves. And so, they watch their kid get hit with these balls, and they're like, especially the moms, I imagine more than the dads, but they're like, they're going crazy on the sideline because their kid's getting shot on. What advice do you have to those parents?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, listen, we want to keep our kids safe. We don't want to see our kids get hurt. But at the end of the day, this is a game where the ball is going to hit you as a goalie, and you got to come to grips with the reality of the position. And unfortunately, it's not like hockey goalie or even box lacrosse where you're covered in pads and, it doesn't hurt. I mean, there's bad bruises you get, and you can break thumbs, and there's a lot of issues that come with playing goalie, health issues in terms of your legs, arms, thumbs, etc. But I think the mom and dad watching is the kid's going to be fine. He's going to recover, especially at the youth level. The shots aren't hard enough.
Right.
It might hurt. You might get a tear out of him, but it's a building moment for him. And if he's truly meant to be in the cage, he's going to take that moment, and he might have a little tear in his eye, but he's going to fight through it and move on to the next save and really use that as a motivation to get better, right? Because if you're better, you're making the save with your stick. And I always tell the goalies, if you're moving to the ball the right way and you're saving it correctly, it's going to hit your stick, not your body. So at the end of the day, it is tough to watch as a parent, but that's part of the game, and you got to kind of come to reality with it.
Yep. Love it. Well, Tillman, like I said, thank you so much for coming on, just kind of talking us through your experience. You're one of the goalie legends, and it's an honor to talk to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's been fun.
If you had to leave the goalies out there with a final piece of advice, what would that be?
Enjoy the game. I think this game, and I take this from Dom Starge, is this game has provided me so many more opportunities than just the sport. The friendships I've created through the game, respect the game, because it'll provide you a lot. So friendships, work opportunities, travel around the world, just different unique experiences, all due to the game of lacrosse. So, I think for the younger generation is respect the game and it will respect you. And that's a direct quote from Dom Starja. And he always preached that to us. And I try to do that today, is respect the game and it will respect you.
Tillman, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Damon.